What would you do if a joyful family outing turned into an unthinkable tragedy? The case of Sara Payne, a little girl whose bright smile lit up the lives of her loved ones, left a nation shocked and grieving. But who was behind this horrific crime and how did the police uncover the truth? Sarah Payne was just 8 years old, a lively, bubbly child from Hersham, Surrey. Known for her love of dressing up and her infectious laughter, Sarah was the third of four children in her family. Her parents, Michael and Sarah Payne, described her as fearless and full of life. On the fateful evening of July 1, 2000, the Payne family was enjoying a weekend visit to their grandparents in West Sussex, a trip that would tragically change their lives forever. 8-year-old Sarah grew up in Hersham, Surrey, with her two brothers, 13 and 11 years old, and her sister, who was 6. She was staying with her grandparents in Kingston Gorse, West Sussex, that summer in 2000. Their home was close to the beach and had acres of land for the four children to run around in. Sarah Payne disappeared on the evening of 1 July 2000 from a cornfield near the home of her grandfather, Terence Payne, and his second wife, Leslie, in Kingston Gorse, West Sussex, England. Payne had been playing with her two brothers and younger sister when she disappeared. Playing hide and seek with her brothers and sister in a cornfield, Sarah crawled through a gap in the tall harvest and onto the road adjacent to the field. Minutes passed, then hours, and Sarah didn't return. Panic set in as the family searched frantically for the young girl, but there was no trace of her. By 9 p.m., the police were alerted, launching one of the largest missing person searches in British history. Volunteers, search dogs, and helicopters combed the area, but it was as if Sarah had vanished into thin air. The police search quickly transformed into a nationwide search and national news story, with members of the Payne family making numerous television and newspaper appeals for her safe return. Police officers and numerous volunteers scoured the area around Littlehampton for clues to Sarah's disappearance, and her family made daily appeals on national television news for help in finding her. In the days following Sarah's disappearance, police interviewed over 2,000 people and distributed thousands of flyers. The media played a crucial role, amplifying Sarah's story across the nation. Still, there were no substantial leads until a witness reported seeing a suspicious white van in the area around the time Sarah disappeared. Her older brother Lee told police that he had seen a white van speed off as he got to the edge of the field to follow Sarah. He said the unkempt man behind the wheel waved at him, but the boy had no idea that his little sister was in the back of the vehicle. He was quite scruffy, looking like he hadn't shaved for ages. He had little white stubbles on his face and little bits of grey in his hair. He was greasy and stuff. On 10 July, police announced that they had received information regarding the sighting of a girl who matched Sarah's description at Knutford Services on the Miss 6 motorway in Cheshire on the morning after her disappearance. 3 days later, Michael and Sarah Payne were warned by police to prepare for the worst, explaining that the emphasis of their inquiries had shifted and that there was a possibility that their daughter might not be found safe and well. After 16 days of searching, on 17 July, a body was found in a field near Pulborough, West Sussex, some 15 miles from Kingston Gorse, where Payne had disappeared. The next day, Sussex police confirmed that the body had been identified as that of Sara Payne. She was partially buried at a roadside near Pulborough. She was naked and had been strangled and suffocated. Post-mortem showed that Sarah had suffered a violent death, and most of her hair had been pulled out in the process. The autopsy confirmed the worst. Sarah had been murdered. The cause of death was determined to be asphyxiation. The next day, a motorist found one of Sarah's shoes. Deborah Bray drove past the black shoe for days after the 8-year-old's disappearance and stopped to pick it up one day. The black sandal with the Velcro strap was found in Coolham, around 10 miles away from where Sarah's body was discovered. Sarah's mother, Sarah, positively identified it as belonging to her daughter. As police scoured the evidence, their attention turned to a known local offender, Roy Whiting. Whiting, a 41-year-old mechanic, had a history of sexual offenses against children. He had previously served time for abducting and assaulting another young girl in 1995. Alarmingly, he lived just a few miles from the field where Sarah was last seen. Roy William Whiting was born in Horsham on 26 January 1959 and grew up in Crawley, where he lived for most of his life until he was convicted of the murder. He was one of six children born to George and Pamela Whiting, but three of his siblings died in infancy. He grew up in Langley Green, Crawley. In June 1986, he married Linda Booker. They separated before their son was born the following year and divorced in 1990. Whiting also fathered a daughter with another unnamed woman around 1990. On 4 March 1995, an 8-year-old girl was abducted and sexually assaulted in the Langley Green area of Crawley. Whiting was arrested several weeks later. A man who knew him came forward after hearing that the abductor's car was a red Ford Sierra, which matched the description of the car that Whiting had just sold. The vehicle was traced by police to its new owner, and a knife was found hidden in it. On 23 June 1995, Whiting admitted charges of abduction and indecent assault and was sentenced to 4 years in prison. The maximum sentence for the crime was life imprisonment. However, he received a lesser sentence because he had admitted to the crime at an early opportunity, although a psychiatrist who assessed Whiting after his conviction said that he was likely to re-offend once he was released. Whiting was released from prison in November 1997, having served 2 years and 5 months of his 4 year sentence, and was one of the first people in Britain to go on the sex offenders register. He had been forced to serve an extra 5 months in prison before being released on license as a penalty for refusing to participate in a sex offender rehabilitation program. Whiting's white van matched the description given by witnesses, but the police needed more to secure an arrest. They tracked his movements and searched his vehicle, uncovering fibers that matched Sarah's clothing and strands of her hair. Additionally, shoe prints found near Sarah's body matched Whiting's footwear. Investigators were still looking into Roy Whiting and were trying to find holes in the alibi he had told them. He said he'd attended a fun fair in Hove, around 20 miles east, at the time of Sarah's disappearance. However, investigators found a receipt for fuel from a garage close to Coolham, where Sarah's shoe was found. The timestamp contradicted his supposed whereabouts, and he was now their prime suspect. On the 23rd of July, Whiting stole a car in Crawley. A police pursuit began around the town and ended with Whiting crashing the Vauxhall Nova into an empty car. He was arrested and sentenced to 22 months in prison for theft and dangerous driving. Meanwhile, forensic investigators began their work on the shoe and Sarah's body. Due to the fast decomposition of the body, the coroner couldn't specify what injuries Sarah had incurred. Still, the loose ball of hair from her head would quickly identify her abductor and killer. Because Whiting was now in prison, police had access to his white Fiat Ducato van, and what they found was disturbing given the man's history. Inside the van, police found sweets, toys, and rope. Hidden behind a curtain, there were also knives, baby oil, and cable ties. He had made the vehicle into a portable prison. Forensics began immediately and they found evidence quickly. Sarah's loose hair was found to contain over 200 material fibers, and some of these came from a sweater found in Whiting's van. Further fibers on Sarah's lost shoe were found to match the passenger seat cover in the van, and Sarah's hair was also found on the sweater. Forensic analysis played a crucial role in building the case. Investigators discovered that Whiting's van contained fibers from the dress Sarah was wearing. Soil samples from the van's tires also matched the area where Sarah's body was found. Surveillance footage placed Whiting near the crime scene on the evening of Sarah's disappearance. On 6 February 2001, Whiting appeared at Lewis Crown Court, charged with abduction and murder. Whiting pleaded not guilty to both charges and was remanded in custody while still serving his sentence for the motoring offenses, but the new charges against him prevented his release from prison during the summer of that year. Writing's trial began on 14 November 2001 at Louis Crown Court. The jury heard from several witnesses. The key witnesses included Sara Payne's oldest brother, who had seen a scruffy looking man with yellowish teeth driving through Kingston Gorse on the evening that Sara Payne went missing. Lee Payne did not pick out Whiting, however, when he was selected for an identity parade. One of Payne's shoes was found by a member of the public in a country lane, and forensic tests had found fibers from Whiting's van on the shoe. This was the only item of Payne's clothing to be recovered. A strand of blonde hair on a t-shirt was found in Whiting's van. A DNA test established there was a 1 in a billion chance of it belonging to anyone other than Payne. The jury also heard the testimony of two motorists who recalled a white van being parked at the roadside and pulling off a track on the evening of 1 July 2000 near the site where Payne's body was later found. On 12 December 2001, after a 4-week trial before Mr. Justice Curtis and a jury, Whiting was convicted of the abduction and murder of Payne and he was sentenced to life imprisonment. The trial judge said it was a rare case in which a life sentence should mean life. After the sentencing, Whiting's previous crime was revealed to the media and the jury. Disclosing that he was a repeat sex offender outraged the public and Sarah's family, believing the 8-year-old's murder could have been easily prevented with monitoring. Sarah's parents began a campaign alongside the News of the World for a change in the law to give the public the right to know about sex offenders living in their area. The campaign for Sarah's Law was spearheaded by the News of the World newspaper and began in July 2000 in response to Payne's murder. This became the campaign for what is known as Sarah's Law, named after Megan's Law in the United States, following a similar case several years earlier. Her parents backed the campaign as they were sure that their daughter's killer was a previously convicted child sex offender. Their belief was proved correct 17 months later when Roy Whiting was found guilty of the murder, and it was revealed that he already had a conviction for abducting and indecently assaulting an 8-year-old girl. Sarah's Law was put in place across England and Wales in 2011, and the effect was immediate. In its first year, the police received over 1,600 inquiries into their local area, protecting 200 children in the process. 2 years later, the BBC reported that 700 pedophiles had been identified through almost 5,000 inquiries. Sarah's mother, Sarah, wrote a book in 2004 detailing her daughter's death and the aftermath, which saw the country step up and take action. The family eventually received PSON 100 from the Criminal Injuries Compensation Authority, which Sarah described as a sick joke. Media sources were also keen to criticize the payout and compare it to much higher payouts made in criminal and civil law for relatively minor injuries and work-related stress. Roy Whiting is still in prison and is eligible for release in 2041 when he is 82 years old. He has been attacked 3 times while in Wakefield Prison. In 2002, he was attacked with a razor and was left with a 6-inch scar on his cheek. In 2011, he was stabbed in the eye, but his injuries weren't serious. In 2018, he was stabbed with 2 inmates, but again, his injuries weren't life-threatening. A bronze statue stands in the gardens of Sara Payne's primary school in her hometown of Hersham, Surrey. The school bought it to honor Sarah's short life. Sarah's tragic death led to the introduction of Sarah's Law, a child protection scheme that allows parents to check if someone with access to their children has a criminal record for offenses against minors. This law has since safeguarded countless children across the UK. Sara Payne's story is a heartbreaking reminder of the dangers that exist in our world, but it also demonstrates the power of community, media, and relentless police work in seeking justice. What lessons can we learn from this tragedy? Could more have been done to prevent it? And how can we, as a society, ensure the safety of our most vulnerable? Sarah's light was extinguished far too soon, but her legacy lives on. As we remember her, let us continue to strive for a world where every child can grow up safe and free from harm. Stay tuned for more real life crime stories and don't forget to subscribe for more gripping content.